Hey, how you going? It's Bree. A lot of you know me from Handy Investor, but I've also started on with a company called Connected Kidz. And right now I'm talking to Josh Davison, who is a co-founder of Connected Kidz. And I started talking to Josh about this. Was it about a year ago, Josh?
Yeah, just about a year ago.
Yeah. Okay. So about a year ago, and about that time or a little bit after that, he started working with my Mr. Ryder. When Josh met Mr. Ryder, he was at an autism school 3 days a week and at a general school 2 days a week, and still quite struggling with it all. He wasn't coping very well at the beginning of that year. The teachers were pretty much one-on-one with him. He wasn't able to be in the classroom. He was being secluded and excluded from everything because they felt they couldn't trust him to be near other kids. He wasn't reading. When they did their therapy, I forget the name of it, but they did a test on him. He was reading at less than a prep level for a lot of things with math and all those kinds of things. Throughout the time that Ryder started working with Josh, or I think right before the time that he started working with you, Josh, we actually pulled him out of school to do distance education.
Mm.
So a lot of that anxiety and stress was starting to come down, but it was still, we were getting meltdowns every day, and it was just really hard to get through to him. He was in a really heightened state. Um, I was just talking to Josh before the Zoom started, and we were talking about how when we first started our sessions with Josh through Zoom, I was sort of panicking and tense because that was my experience with any kind of therapy with Ryder, is that I never knew how he was going to react, or if he was going to cope, or if he was going to follow instructions, because he was so unpredictable. And we were just saying that I was a helicopter mum and I was trying to control the conversation. And about 2 or 3 sessions in, Josh said, he's actually better if you're not here. so so Josh started taking on those sessions and I didn't even need to be present. And I was saying to Josh that going to OT, speech therapy, actual therapy, all those different sessions, I was so exhausted. We were out 2, 3, 4 times a week, not to mention the other kids' sporting activities that we had. I was just so worn out and stressed from the whole thing that being able to do those sessions with Josh through Zoom meant it was one less time that I was out of the house, and I could actually, set Ryder up on his Zoom and walk away and know that Ryder was having fun with Josh. How was that experience for you, Josh, with Ryder?
Yeah, I loved it. Ryder's such a cool kid for those who know him. And, that's something that's the foundation or the philosophy that I come from, and also the theory that we work in, that these kids have amazing strengths. And unfortunately, in school or in other settings, there's a real focus on the weaknesses or the things that they can't do, and those are important to acknowledge and to work on. But certainly, there's a real magic in this program that they're able. There is some creativity and some independence, and I think that they can be comfortable, so they can be in their own home, in their room. Sometimes they like special clothes on, or they like to have a teddy with them or a toy to do the sessions with them. And for whatever reason, there's synergistic things that are happening that means they're enjoying the sessions, so that they do the sessions, and then we get to see those benefits.
I was laughing there a little bit because Ryder's preferred method would have been to do it naked. And we used to have to
That
fight
was
him to put
pretty
shorts
standard.
on for his session with you. But that was how comfortable he was, he just wanted to be comfortable. Okay, so you mentioned that, some of the difficulties that kids have. And one of the things I found most interesting about this program, and something that I never understood, is that with ASD, ADHD, even ADD, dyslexia, which I think I have dyslexia. I've been saying it for a very long time, but I was like 26 or something when I figured it out. And well, probably a bit younger than that, but 26 when I really started to understand that I wasn't just dumb, it was something else. And then when I was about 36, they told me, a therapist told me that she thinks I have ADHD as well. And then, when we started talking about this program, as I've heard so many other parents with kids who have ADHD and ASD, they say, oh, I've noticed a bit of that in myself. Um, And then that's when I think people start to think that there's a genetic link. When I was reading a book that you recommended, Disconnected Kids,
Yeah.
um, it goes into how they don't think that maybe it's a genetic thing, that it's something from birth that underdevelops. And I just wanted you to explain a little bit more about left brain, right brain, and how that affects the diagnosis of ADD and ADHD and things like that.
Sure. So just really quickly with genetics, there was an early study early on that seemed to suggest that there may be a genetic link, but further research, and you can find it all there in the Disconnected Kids books, there's more research to suggest that there isn't a genetic link. You know, for example, they took a whole heap of identical twins, which have the same genetics, and you'll have one that is autistic and one that's not. So if it's genetic, then you couldn't have two people with the the same genetics that have a different condition or that don't have the same condition. So that has been debunked, if you like, if you look at the latest research and the most thorough research. However, there are traits that we inherit, and I think everybody can think of a trait that they've inherited from their parents. And so, these traits or certain things or imbalances, they can be seen in children and in families, and that's why you can be more likely to have a diagnosis of a neuro developmental disorder like ASD or ADHD if a parent has those traits as well. So
Yeah.
we can only, when we produce a child, they're made up of us.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
traits that they inherit. But really what's happening is there are a lot of factors, and yes, traits of parents are one, and then development is when this is really happening. That can start from the womb. There's a lot going on in the womb. It can be traumatic birth. It can be missing important stages of development like crawling, walking, talking. And all of these things are stimulating the brain, and they
Sorry,
create.
I've got my nieces and nephews over and they're just breaking into my room right now. I'm
Yeah,
in a meeting, you need to come back. I'm in a meeting, you need to come back.
and that's reality. That's part of the sessions. That's part of everything. You've got to deal
Yeah.
with family and fit it all in. So as I was saying, all these things make up the foundation of the brain. And if you miss one of those steps, think of a building. If you miss one of the steps in the foundation, then there's going to be some symptoms or some undesirable effects of missing those stages. And the left brain and the right brain,
Yeah,
they
sorry.
tell.
When you say missing those stages, in my mind, I didn't really understand until I read Disconnected Kids that the part of the brain that develops when you learn to crawl, it doesn't develop as it should. And then there's a deficiency in that side of the brain. If they go straight from, sitting to standing and walking,
Yeah,
that part of the brain just stayed underdeveloped and didn't actually progress.
yeah,
And yeah, that was such an eye opener for me, that it was things that just needed to be strengthened that weren't strengthened at the right point. And then what you guys have, well, what we've done, or the Disconnected Kids and Connected Kids have done, is then worked out a way to be able to strengthen and rebuild that part of the brain, so that they're functioning like they should have been from when they were little. Um, yeah, so one of the things that, when I mentioned Ryder couldn't even understand prep level sight words, after the program, we started to see that, first of all, within, I think it was probably about halfway through, we started to notice that he was actually reading. And you hear about all these kids like I've never read before and then pick up and start reading full paragraphs, and you're like, yeah, yeah, they're those genius kids.
mhm,
But that was kind of what it was like. It was like he couldn't even do sight words, and even still sometimes struggles with sight words. But he's now up to book 3 of Harry Potter. And that was in within weeks. And during the program, it was like, not that we sat and read with him for hours and hours and hours or hours and anything like that. It was just the information had been going in. He just couldn't get it back out.
yeah,
And it was like that part of the brain strengthened and he was able to get that everything he'd been doing out. I'm getting a little bit teary because um, for years at school, the teachers will contact us and say, he just wants to read. He loves books. He wants to read so bad. He can't read. And it was his goal every term and every semester. And he tried so hard. and he'd want to listen to everyone reading to him all the time. So it was going in, he just couldn't get it out, and then it clicked.
So it's life changing. I mean, a kid that can't read or is struggling to read, then being able to read, like, you think how important that is in life. And yeah, academic improvements is one of the big things that we do see. And going back to the therapists that you mentioned, they're all important and they can all help to a certain extent. But the problem isn't the reading or the looking at. It's not that he's not reading enough, or if there's a physical issue, if a kid can't do up his buttons or tie his shoes, all the practice in the world is not going to get you the result that you want,
And it
because the
was actually
problem.
having the opposite effect. When we try to get him to practice things over and over and over again, he was like, "I'm just no good. I
Yeah,
can't do this." And
yes,
we'd hear him say, "I want to die." Like it was just, he was trying so hard. He just couldn't do it. He just tried so hard.
yeah. So think of a 2-year-old. No matter how much you try and get them to read or to tie up their buttons, they can't do it because their brain hasn't developed to that state yet. And so if a child has missed a stage at 2 years old, and you've never gone back and filled in that gap, then that part of the brain, which might be reading, it might be emotional regulation, it's still at a 2-year-old level. And we just think because they've gotten older that they're more capable. But if the brain hasn't developed, then they're not. And so if you never go back and correct the issue, which is in the brain
Yeah.
is in charge of reading. The brain is in charge of doing up your buttons or your shoelaces, or regulating your emotions. If you never go back to the master control for the body and fill in those gaps, then you'll never get to their full potential.
And some of the exercises I saw you doing with Ryder, I thought they're really simple, but he struggled so much,
Yeah.
and it wasn't just coordination, it was coordination and balance at the same time, and things like that. And I thought, wow, this is really simple. Why doesn't everyone know about this? And honestly, I think it's more just a lack of understanding in general. We're all guessing at how to fix this. And I think this disconnected kids and the Malilo method, which you'll learn more about if you get to know Connected Kidz, has really just unlocked something that is currently still very unknown.
Yeah, 100%. That's what I've come to know. I haven't spoken to any parents that know about the Malillo method in America, which is where Dr. Malillo is from. It's more well known. He has 150 centers over there, and he's treated tens of thousands of kids for decades. So it's very well known. It's got more science behind it, more testimonials than any other therapy that I could find. So the research is there, the testimonials are there, but in Australia, it's virtually unheard of. I'm one of only 4 practitioners that are certified in his method, and I'm currently, training other people in his method because, when I found it, I really believe, and I've been working in health for over 15 years now, I really believe this is the #1 healthcare model in the world that I've ever found. And from the results that I've seen, as you've heard from Bree, and there's many parents like Bree that we've worked with that can share similar results, and they're telling me that no other therapist could get those results. So we feel like we're
Get them as quick.
really powerful. Yeah, it's
Like Ryder's done all the other things for years and years and years, and it was like swimming in mud.
mm,
And then we jumped into a swimming pool and we could swim to the end really quickly. And he's still Ryder, but he's a lot calmer. He sleeps better through the night. If we're not sticking to the things that we know, we still see a slight meltdown, but nothing like
yeah.
the dramatic meltdowns that were just constant, never stopping and exhausting. So yeah, completely different kid. Loves reading, a lot happier, a lot more peaceful, a lot calmer, actually making more friends and wanting to spend time with other kids, not being afraid to spend other time, like time with other kids and things like that. So really grateful. And it was a really quick program what we did, and others take a little bit longer. But what was it? We did 16 weeks or 12 weeks.
Yeah, we do 12 weeks, and we do between 12 and 16, depending on the child. Obviously, the severity of the child and their needs, then they might need a longer one or a shorter one. But yeah, in as little as 12 weeks, like you're saying, you can see dramatic results. And again, I don't know of any other therapy where you can do that and then stop the therapy. And this has been proven by Harvard University that you can stop the therapy. The results not only remain, but they actually improve over
Yeah.
time. So the brain,
His reading got better even after
better and
he
better even
began.
after the therapy stopped. So, I mean, if you know of another therapy that can do that, please tell me.
Yeah.
I'd love to. I'm happy to. I'm always open to learning and whatever works.
I
And
think what the difference is that you've strengthened that side of the brain that was a deficit, and it then goes, okay, I can keep up now.
yeah,
What I read in Disconnected Kids was that when one starts to stop developing, but one underdevelops, the other side gets stronger and continues on without it, and it has trouble catching up.
yeah,
So I think the reason why it sticks is because you've actually strengthened them and they're on more of a even playing field and they can keep up with each other when they're developing, or the development's already done and they've just played catch up now and it sticks. So that's my understanding anyway, as a parent,
yeah.
you know.
Well, that's right. And think of people. We're driven to rewards. So if there's certain tasks or certain things that we do well, we want to keep doing those because that's where we're getting rewards and that's where we're getting that positive feedback. But so there's one side of our brain is stronger and we're better in social settings, then we're going to keep working on the social settings. But then the other side of our brain struggles, or if it's facts and recall that we're really good at, that's what we sort of move towards, and we keep building that side of our brain. But then the other side of the brain, if we're strengthening one side of the brain, the imbalance is actually becoming greater and greater. So
Yeah.
we work on those deficits, which we're able to assess those deficits, and then we're able to bring them up so that it creates balance and they're able to be in sync, which is how we're supposed to be.
Oh, it works. So you and I, this was meant to be a really quick conversation, but I think you and I could talk about this all day, which most people probably could listen to all day when they learn about how this is different to other things and the progress people have. But I'm going to have to cut you off here. It was awesome talking to you, Josh. We'll probably do this again on another topic. So I'll let you go for now, but thank you so much. And I'm so grateful for all the work that you put in with Mr. Ryder. And especially how much calmer he is since we've been working with you. Thanks so much.
You're so welcome, Bree.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye bye.